So, welcome to the Blerd Talk Podcast, brought to you by the Blerd Initiative. We a little late, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I want to let you know, even though you were late and I was kind of perturbed, but you're here, so I'm feeling a little bit better. The show's back on, and the topic was Black privilege. I was surprised to see the turnout as far as the voting. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but I was surprised that so many people actually wanted to listen to or hear us talk about Black privilege. So think of when you think of privilege in general, us as Black people, we only hear about white privilege, right?
You mean like anyone only hears about white privilege?
Yeah,
That's literally the only privilege that ever exists in people's heads, apparently.
yeah, and we accustomed to hearing about how the white man did this and that for 400 years and all that stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then we're used to hearing about white people are the only ethnic group who can be racist, and no other race is racist, right? Then we said
Apparently.
huh?
I said apparently.
Yeah. So then it's like we, Black people as a whole, as a community, used to be playing the victims. We're not used to hearing Black privilege. So when I looked it up, I saw an article, and it was a CNN article actually. I'm assuming there's interviewing a white guy. The white guy said the biggest Black privilege is Black History Month. And on the surface, that's like the most absurd thing I ever heard, right? Because like if
Mhm.
there we can't get 1 month out of y'all, we y'all got the other months, we can't get one. You know what
So,
I'm saying?
but that's coming to the assumption that every single month is white privilege month, and like, don't think that's kind of silly that like people people think like, ah, this is the one month I can be me
Right, right,
unapologetically, right?
right.
And then the moment February 28th ends, is March 1st just now I'm oppressed again. Like,
So they was
it's just
saying
kind of silly to me.
the guy said he said if March or April or May was White History Month, that they would be called racist. So I mean, it's just I figure out of all the 12 months, we get one,
Hmm.
and people are upset about that, and they label that as Black privilege.
I wonder if they're upset with all the other history months. I'd like to kind of just sit down and just kind of like pick their brain to see like, are they upset with like Caribbean Heritage History Month or like Native American History Month? You know, a lot of them start getting blended together as well. So I wonder if they're like upset at things like that.
If they are, I haven't seen it. I just know
It
that's
doesn't
back.
get the clicks. That's
Yeah,
why.
no. It's Black privilege. It's Black History Month. I wonder. I didn't do a thorough research, but what have you heard that's labeled as
It's,
Black privilege?
so like the more we talk about this, the more my mind starts to spin. The more I really stop caring about this entire topic point because like I think it's all just so silly. Like
Yeah.
I guess the first thing to dissect is like the Black History Month, and it's like, yeah, this is our month. It's like, so what do y'all do with the other 11 months of the year? Like, are you just sad until Black History Month? Like,
Tomorrow, are
nothing.
Black people sad?
Are Black people just sad until like in that context? Like when they say things like, "Nah, y'all get the other months, we get this month." Like, does
I,
that really affect y'all that badly? I wonder.
I've seen people complain that they gave us the shortest month of the year.
I've always heard that growing up. They give us the shortest month of the year and blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, it's always a complaint somewhere.
Yeah,
I
nobody's
don't,
ever gonna be satisfied. But it's just to say it's Black privilege. Like that's the whole community has been oppressed, right? So how is it that, as far as the Black History Month is concerned, how is that Black privilege in correlation to like how people we use white privilege in different contexts? Like like white privilege is like when I guess if a Black man commit a crime and a white man commit that same crime, but the Black man get a harsher sentence or whatever or
Mhm.
prosecution. I don't
So
think
the
that.
interesting thing about that though is like it's not even that so clear cut as to that. There's also things like if a female commits the same crime, she would get less. If it was a white female versus a black female, if if they were young or old, like there's so much that goes into how the sentencing is done other than just race. Like race is a part of it, sure. And
Mm.
I'll definitely yield that it is a part of it, but there's also a lot of other factors that fall into sentencing as well, which I think is absolutely crazy. I think one of the biggest ones was the privilege that no one really talks about, which is probably the best privilege in the world, is the privilege of just being pretty.
Mm.
Yeah,
You
if
want
you're just a pretty person,
you want to dive deeper on it?
the world is your oyster. Oh, easy. I mean, think
Yeah,
about it
go
from
down the rabbit hole
age
for me.
zero. Yeah. Let's think about it from age zero, right? Think about it from elementary school, if you can remember that far back, right?
I can't, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can't, but there are things even I see where the pretty person is the one who generally will get first picks, is generally thought of to be positive, generally thought of as being kind and sweet and sincere and could do no wrong, things of that nature.
Hmm.
And then as time goes on, obviously you can see what happens with the pretty people when they mature into adulthood and things of that nature, of how many different avenues open up to you depending on how pretty you are. I think the best example, and usually, we talk about the female side, but let's look at the male side, right? My favorite example of this is that guy who got locked up, who had the really pretty eyes. I think he
Oh,
murdered someone.
he
The dude with the black dude with the
and
blue, you know
he ended up
exactly
getting
what
a
I'm talking. He
modeling
has a
career
tattoo, and he has an entire modeling career
off
flying
of a
the world.
mugshot.
Yeah, not because he has
He earned
skill in
it. Yeah,
some
he
industry
earned
or earned
society's
anything.
acceptance
Yeah, and
back.
I'm not saying like he obviously, I don't know what he's done in his past, but I'm saying a point of that nature is he got this because he was pretty. He got this because his chromosomes lined up in the way other people's chromosomes wish they could have lined up. That ability to go from locked up and a mugshot got you a job to
Yeah,
travel
that's not
internationally
that
as a
wouldn't be me.
model. Yeah, that's wild. I think that is the wildest privilege in the world that is very underrated that no one talks about. Just looking pretty. You could be the dumbest person in the world, and people will give their life for you
The,
because you look pretty.
and that's terrible.
Oh, you starting to think about it now? Huh?
Yeah, like just I mean, I seen it at work where if somebody is attractive or pretty, people would do
Mhm.
for them.
Oh yeah,
And
it's crazy when you think about it, right?
yeah, but then it's like if you relate it to as far as race, I've never seen anybody do for somebody because of the color of their skin. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was about to, I feel like I was about to say something crazy, but I never seen nobody do something for somebody because of the color of their skin as far as like work related things. I have seen how certain races side with certain people of their race.
Oh yeah.
I mean
Yeah,
that's
that's just
common.
tribalism. That's just innate. Like
Yeah,
most of the
so
time, you're gonna side with people that look like you or people who think like you, but look like you first and then think like you next. Generally speaking.
but as far as to label it like this Black History Month is Black privilege, that's the most absurd thing. Like
Yeah, no, I don't.
you,
Well, I can see why though, because a lot of the times, if anyone is ever to speak out on any issues, especially at that time of the month, they're just immediately deemed racist. Like, there's so many everything that apparently just can't be discussed in good faith because people apparently just throw that moniker around so easily. But I think there's a lot to analyze with it and just how it's celebrated and what it's looked at. Like, remember Juneteenth this year,
yeah.
and a couple of companies wanting to obviously make money because companies are here to do that, but they wanted to create Juneteenth stuff, and then
So
there's the entire uproar of that.
how did you feel about that? Did you?
I didn't,
I'm assuming you didn't really give
I
a
didn't
damn. Like
care.
so
Yeah, no, like,
when I saw that, I was
hmm
like, are they trying to appropriate our culture? Because
well, this is the thing though. It's like, remember when we talked about Black culture before. I think this is like a podcast or two ago, and I
mhm.
was like, eventually, I think it needs to go to the point where it just needs to be dubbed American history.
Yeah, you did.
Because
Yeah, you
yeah,
said that before.
yeah, it needs to be dubbed American. And if you want the moniker American Black History, regardless of it, it's all American history. Like since day one interaction to said XYZ terrible atrocities to bring us all the way here, like all of that's still American history. Like we all live in America.
Mm-hmm.
All of it's our history. Like Black history doesn't only belong to Black people, and neither does the other side of the history. Like it's not only you guys. Like taking chunks out, like we don't ever interact or there is no interaction, is just so weird. So I think obviously there's origin. Like you can talk about specific cultures of it that have nothing to do with other places. So specific cultures in Africa for sure.
Mm.
But to sit there and try and say like XYZ isn't American history, like no, all these things that Black people did made a huge impact in American culture. All the things that the Chinese did, all the things that the Japanese did, every single culture is blended in. Like that's the entire thing of having a melting pot. And then suddenly, like to fight against this idea that we're not a melting pot, even if it seems like we're so separated. I mean, we're still neighbors. There's still other people that probably don't look like you across the street, or maybe they do. But maybe in your area, I'm sure you don't have everyone looking like you.
Do you think uh, if white people say, or if any other race calls something black privilege, do you think that's racist in itself?
No, how's that racist? Everyone has
I,
privilege.
have you? I never heard of Japanese privilege or not
Because they
Japanese
don't.
Asian
Because the
privilege
things
or
is they don't concern themselves with things like that
yeah.
because that shit don't matter. Is the like a lot of the shit we talk about just don't matter. It really doesn't. When people
Bruh.
just love having like I'm all for having conversations and jest and fun, things of that nature. But like at the end of the day, whether someone says you have privilege or not, it really you need to work to see what you can do with the cards you were dealt. Maybe your cards dealt where your chromosomes lined up perfectly. All right, use that privilege to get somewhere in your life, like that dude did with a modeling career. I'm not mad at him. That's just how things are. People like to look at pretty things. There isn't anyone who's like, yeah, I love looking at ugly shit in the world. Like, like no, that's not
Or
how
if
we're
it is,
built.
they call it abstract.
Yeah, man. Oh, that's such a jab at artists.
No, I mean, that probably my bad.
Oh boy.
Damn. So for just for damn, I really
Oh,
said that. Damn,
you really
I
did.
really
It just rolled off the tongue.
yeah. It
Like
was
you
just
didn't even give it
yeah
another.
yeah. It's anyway. So Black Worm in the chat, he said, "Here's some privileges I recognize as a black man. We validate everyone but ourselves. I rarely fear being mugged. I know that I have the mysterious aura that other people fear. They're whack privileges, but they're exploitable
Yeah,
privileges
yeah.
all the same. Just
So
my
let me
opinion."
expand on that. So Buick, I always think of things just to make things simpler, coming from me being a gamer since pretty much like age zero. I always think of it like a stat sheet, right? Think of it like D&D terms where you have all these stats and all these weird feats that you have, right? You didn't choose them. It's just this is kind of the construct that we have. So as black people, like in the stat sheet, for example, rarely fear being mugged, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you could add something like a +2 to like not being feared or being scared or things like that, right? Inherently, just in general, we are feared to be just stronger, at least physically, and also more aggressive in general, which could be a privilege in some lights, or in other lights could be a negative in some lights.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, being taller or being stronger than your adversaries is pretty much always a positive. I don't know if there's a time in history where just being stronger than someone else is a bad thing, just in general. Obviously, it can come into negativities. Let's say police interactions, you might roll pretty low with that because they might be scared of you,
Yeah.
or it could be they're scared of you so they don't mess with you. It can go either way with it. It always depends on that situation. Um, Sometimes being fetishized, black males slash black people in general. Depending on how you look at it, that can be a pro or a con. Depends on where you are in the world, what you're trying to do, things like that. Some cultures really, really fetishize us, and some cultures really just love our culture in general. Japanese people in particular, they love black culture. They love rap.
I've
They
heard
love
that.
just a
Yeah.
lot of things in general, entertainment wise. So you can use that to your advantage, especially if you travel and things like that. Like you bring that positivity over to it, right? Being trendsetters, Black people as a culture generally are the ones that set trends, fashion, design, entertainment, things of that nature. That can be a huge positive. You roll, let's say, a +2 in entertainment, a +2 that on your first interaction with randoms, they generally think you're a pretty cool dude. That is a huge bonus to anything in life. Like people generally thinking you're a pretty chill or okay dude, or opposite wise, they could think you're a pretty aggressive dude because you're stronger than most people. Like you never really know, right? But it's better than someone perceiving you negatively or someone perceiving you as meh. That's when things generally get dangerous.
I've
So
seen
it really depends.
I've seen both sides of that, like being black.
Hmm.
Like when in Richmond and I'll be around VCU,
Hmm.
people. Now I look like I'm stereotyping against myself, but I look like I would belong at VCU, right?
Hmm.
So I'm trying to use that as my advantage to interact with people. But then a
Hmm.
lot of the people there were like, they didn't see glasses, they didn't see how articulate I may be. They just saw a black guy.
Hmm.
So then it was like that. I felt like at times that was used against me,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's
But
always I always found out that was interesting that black people like me. People will look at me and you, right? They see the glasses, they see how we talk, or they hear how we talk. They're
hmm.
like, oh, they probably in college somewhere. But people outside of the black community will be like, oh, he's black. He's probably a thug. He's probably
Hmm.
or whatever. So
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
all
I guess it works
depends.
both ways. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, it always is. The next thing I always relate to people is like obviously like in any sort of olden fantasy or things like that. A general rule of notion is that doors and elves don't like each other. It's just crap that's happened in the past. Generally, dragons live alone. They're isolated. It's literally the same when you think about like in game context or real world context. It's legit the same. There might be a melting pot of, let's say, another dwarf seeing another dwarf. They're already chill because they're both dwarves. A
Mm-hmm.
black guy sees another black guy. They're probably chill as long as they don't look at each other a weird way, a strange
Oh,
way, or
step
something
on
like
their
that.
shoes, step
Yeah,
on
yeah,
shoes
yeah.
or
Because
something.
all that stuff's fucking stupid in my opinion. Like I can't look at another person without someone being aggressive or hostile in some areas. But in general, in most places, like we don't really mess with each other like that. Like outside of the things I just said, like that. So those can be huge positives, especially when you're talking about like assimilating into groups. Like there's always a lot of comedians back in the 90s, 80s, probably even still to this day, that always says things like, yeah, you should bring around like a white friend or a white guy to do XYZ. you know in general, it's kind of like a funny jab of being like, oh, like haha, we get treated differently.
Mm-hmm.
But why wouldn't you diversify your skill pool or your talent set so that you can get what you want a bit easier in life? Like have a wide variety of friends who can do things. Don't have friends who are all IT, and then when something I done like not IT happens, you're just screwed in life. You're like, oh crap, my plumbing's out. I don't know any plumbers. Or crap, like something happened to my roof. I don't know anyone with that. Or
Yeah.
crap, I don't know anyone. Like it's the exact same thing in every single facet of life that we just go with. We just roll with it. But the moment we talk about racial interactions, oh no, 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 we can't have this, and this can't be happening. Oh no, like so I just find all of it wild. It's very fascinating to just to see, just to witness.
Yeah. I'm also curious as to we have about four viewers. I mean, if anybody else in the chat other than
Don't
Buku.
call them out.
No, I mean I would like them to to describe their experiences of black privilege. So don't be scared. Come on, talk to us. But
No, I'm pretty sure
outside of
people have
that,
just walked up and talked to you just because you're black. I can guarantee that happens. Or the premise of he's black, so he's got a big dick. That premise has worked positively for almost any black dude I have ever talked to in any sort of growing up in the club scene, early 20s, late teens. Like, come on, man. Like, sexual prowess. This is the fetishizing part I'm talking about. Like, you
yeah,
roll
I
like
did.
a
I've heard
plus
about
two in
that.
any sort of like charm or sexual encounters.
I've
And that's
heard
just
that.
a natural. You're born that way. You just have that.
I think I was streaming. This was months ago. I was streaming this game called Football Manager Soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I guess at the time I was streaming it, it was in the morning here, but it must have been like in the evening over in Europe. So
Mm-hmm.
this Turkish, I'm assuming he was Turkish. He came in the chat and he
Mm-hmm.
was speaking trying to speak English the best way it could, and he randomly said, "Oh my God, my country love black people,"
There we go.
and it was kind of awkward because I don't know how to respond.
Yeah, especially if you're not used to that. Like for me, because the way I stream before, I would usually stream at night. So I would get a lot of people from the East, just the East in general, who would tune into my stream. And who knows why? Like you never know as a streamer really why people are watching you. They're just there.
Right.
But a portion of it can just be what you said. Hey, they like black people.
Yeah, here I
And
am.
it's
You see a
like,
black person on camera, you
yeah,
tune
and how
in.
many black people on camera are streaming at that time and soccer?
And what's funny because I was on stream maybe a couple of days ago, a
Hmm.
few days ago, and I was just looking to see who was doing what, and I
Hmm.
saw another black guy streaming the same game, and I automatically like you know
You
how it lines
automatically
up.
honed into them.
Yeah, you see it
Hmm.
like lined up, and everybody's playing this game. But I saw him. I was like, oh, he's black. I'm black. Let me go to his and see what he's
Yeah,
doing.
and show
So,
support because
yeah.
once again, most humans in general, tribalism will kick in. It's not a terrible or bad thing. It's just what we do. We gravitate to people who look like us. That's just how it is, unless a very unfortunate event has occurred. So, like, let's say you lived in the hood and you got picked on all the time by specific hood-looking people, then you probably won't gravitate to hood-looking people. But like that event has to
I
consistently
feel like you're
occur.
speaking on my life just now.
Yeah, but like those things have obviously mental traumas and things like that. Obviously, throw things in different areas all the time. But just in general, that's how things are. People will gravitate to people who look like them. You see it
Hmm.
in every single culture. It's not something. It's not some phenomenon. Like no, this is what happens.
Have you what have you experienced personally as far as black privilege?
Um, Pretty much any sort of sexual encounter was just deemed more positive in a much more positive light than any other encounters that said person had. Just
That
straight out the gate,
you was
just
just that
anything of that nature.
you was a monster. That was
Yeah,
the
apparently. And who knows? I don't. And you were really chuckling yourself out, aren't you? Yeah. So like, there's been privilege there. There's been privilege when I had dreads. Actually, crazy enough, because most of the times you hear, people with dreads generally harder time to find jobs, negative in
hmm
professional settings, things like that, which is true. But in general, like with regular social interactions, it generally will bring more people towards you. As long as you like smile, like no one's good at anyone who's like mean mugging and looking angry all the time. But as long as you smile and you actually exuberate like a positive demeanor, people are very interested in black hair, black culture, black anything. Like that's the entire thing of like, don't touch my hair, like in the black community. And people generally see that as a negative light, but you can have so many interactions with people, teach, talk to, befriend, anything like that based off of your hair. Like think
hmm
about that in the opposite context, right? Who the fuck is looking at a white dude and being like, oh, his hair looks so cool, his hair is so unique? Who says that in that context? But in
I've
respect
never
to
heard it.
black
I'm not
culture,
not
yeah,
saying
I've
that
never
people
heard it,
haven't.
I've never seen. No, most of the time we're just like, oh, they spiked their hair.
Yeah, they put what is
like
it, moose?
like that's kind
Like
of it. Yeah, they use moose and just right, like old school boy bands, old school like NSYNC and things like that, right? What they color, spike their hair, what that's about it, right?
hmm
But when you talk about things like let's say black hair, there's a wild difference of how people rock their hairstyles, a wild difference, and people are interested in that sort of thing. It falls back on the entertainment side. Like people in general just seem to be more interested in what you have to say than other people.
Yeah, I can agree.
Yeah, it's just something I've noticed. And, conversations and things of that nature get you very far on this planet.
I've always thought that you had more experience, like with black privilege, because you interact with more people. I think I would have maybe.
Yeah, I'd say
So
early in life I did. I don't. I keep people at arm's length now much more than I ever did before. Before I would interact with pretty much anyone. I'm not saying I wouldn't interact with people now, but I'm just more so a homebody in my house, just trying to like navigate, plan, look in the future, things like that. But no, I've interacted with just a wide variety of people, whether they're even from this country or not. It's pretty fascinating just to see like one when you look at things online and you're like, man, this world is like terrible or all these horrible things are happening. Like I'd always challenge people, just go outside and go down your street, depending on where you live. Like here in some hoods, I get it. But in general, go down your street and just talk to actual people in real life, and they're not like
That's
that.
kind of even outside of the hood. That's kind of dangerous. Like,
Yeah, I mean, to a
well,
degree.
yeah, I know it's a lady in my apartment complex. This is an old lady, little old white lady. She be walking her little Yorkie around, and if whenever she see me, she just drops everything to talk to me, and I'm kind of
Mhm.
apprehensive. But as the
Well, why?
conversation go, why?
Yeah,
I just I don't know. Maybe I'm paranoid. My
I think
paranoia kicks in.
that's the programming. This is what I talk about. Like all the stuff you see online. Like you would think everything is burning. Like everyone's out to get you. Shootings are everywhere. Everyone's dying. Don't
Hmm.
talk to anyone. Don't trust strangers. Oh yeah, but call up your Uber even though you don't know nothing about them and ride in their own car. But have people deliver the food that you put in your mouth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
That's always been in the back of my mind, like,
yeah,
because
like it's
I've
ridiculous.
seen stuff, just horrible stuff
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
But anyway,
we've all seen it. Yeah. So like yeah, they have it brainwashed to make you believe like you can't trust anyone. I mean, that's how in a sense big governments slash like totalitarian systems work is they claim you can't trust anyone but them. But that little lady with the Yorkie probably is one of the most trustworthy people on that block.
yeah, it's actually
Probably.
and actually when in there's been a few times we've crossed paths and we interacted with each other, and it
Hmm.
was just simple. She's actually not that bad. She talks a lot,
Yeah.
but outside of that, I mean, it's not that bad. And I'll just sit there and smile like,
Is
all
she an
right.
older lady?
Yeah, she's probably like 60s, 70s, maybe
Those are
even
my
80s.
favorite people when I was younger to talk to. Because think of it like this, right? Let's assume she's 80 for simple math, right? You're in your mid 30s. She's lived through your life twice over and then some.
Hmm.
Twice over everything you've experienced, learned, talked about, seen. She's already done it. She has all of that knowledge,
Hmm.
all of that wisdom, all of that vision that you will never have in your life because you weren't there.
Hmm.
That's such an abundance of resources that all you'd have to do is sit there and listen. And you could learn so much and also teach so much because there is 35 years of unique experience that you have that she possibly has no idea about.
Also, I think I was apprehensive because of all the news that's coming out when black people are being like the guy who got killed because he was just jogging,
Hmm. Oh
and
yeah, what's his
I
face?
forget his
Jeez,
name. I mean,
I think
just
it was Amon Arbery. I think that was that case.
yeah. So it's like when I don't feel as if any quote unquote black privilege kicks in. And I'm probably just being stereotypical, but when it kick in when you're like in the South. Like, I'm in Louisiana. Like that's
Hmm.
like as South as you can get, right? Like so the general perception of the South is like everybody Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, everybody's racist. And I just feel like
Hmm.
being black doesn't necessarily benefit me in a red state. You
You
know what
think
I'm saying?
so?
So I'll be apprehensive. I could be just ignorant to the whole thing. And I mean, if that's the case, then I would like to be educated somehow. But I mean, I just feel like it's just, so I'm more apprehensive here because I'm black. And I feel like
Hmm.
my black privilege doesn't work as well down here as it would if I was, I don't know, in New York. Maybe, I don't know, just being stereotypical about regions.
Hmm.
But like if I was in
But
Harlem, I'm pretty sure I'll be good, right? But like generally speaking, or stereotypically speaking, but in Louisiana, I don't think so. But
mm,
I could be wrong.
the first thing I'd say is, have you actually gone out to talk to people? No, I didn't think so. So that's the very first thing of it. It's just yeah, you can feel that way, and I'm sure you feel that way just based on a lot of the events that happen around you. But if you actually research how the event occurred, you probably be like, well, why the fuck did they do that? Like
Yeah.
that makes no sense. Like I would never think to do XYZ. And then obviously there's always like, the weird freak incidents where it's like, yeah, there's probably nothing you could do. The weird, I can't remember the police officer who did it, but he investigated this I think they might have been husband and wife or at least just dating or living together, this person's house. And he like walked into their backyard, saw them through their back window, like told them to freeze and shot them through their back window. And I was like,
when was this?
who does this? I'll find the story to send it to you. I was just like, who? There was nothing you can do in that situation. Just imagine you're sitting there looking out your back window washing dishes, because that's like how my setup is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cop shows up. You don't even know it's a cop because it's dark out. So, obviously seeing from inside to outside, you're just like, I see a figure. And then you hear like a muffled freeze. And you're like, what? And then bullets come through. I'm like, this is the most ridiculous shit. So, like, at one point, I think people were trying to claim race and things like that. It's like, I doubt this dude could even see the color of whoever was through that window.
Right.
He saw a figure and probably was like, bat, bat, bat. So, like, when you're thinking about isolated cases like that, okay, sure, it could happen. But it's just the probability of that happening to you. It's just, do you even have, first of all, you don't even live on the first floor. So they would have to come
personally,
up with, like,
no. Yeah, you have to put some effort to get to me. Yeah.
There's just so many situations. There's just so many small things that play, in fact, to like the larger situation that have a huge amount of like chance over when these things are going to occur. And most of the time, you'll just never know. So most of the time, you just won't put yourself in that situation. Like, that's just one of the easiest things.
Yeah.
Things like, do you walk outside in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. by yourself without paying attention to your surroundings and protecting yourself at all times? No. Well, just don't walk outside doing risky behavior stuff like that.
Hold on for a second. So let's say me being black, I go outside, right? It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm in all black, like black hoodie, black sweats, black Air Forces.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Yeah. So a car pulls up, right? Matter of fact, no, I got a better story. Remember when we was waiting, years ago? We was waiting for the PS3 or PS4 in front of Target. It was me, you, Julius. No, I don't think you was there. It was me and Julius. But long story short, we was waiting for one of the PlayStations to come out, right? So I decided to go to Denny's by the Target. So I'm walking to Denny's. I'm in all black, not even thinking what the time is, where I am. I mean, I'm thinking it's Chesterfield, so I'm good, right? But then that kind of probably worked against me because it's Chesterfield. So I'm going to the Denny's, and a cop pulls up. They swerve in front of me. They're like, don't move, blah, 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 blah. And I'm kind of like, whoa, what's going on? And me kind of being ignorant to what's happening, I put my hands in my pockets. And so one of the cops grabbed the gun. He was like, "No, don't move." Said whatever he was saying, right? So then, I'm sorry, Alex. I'm sorry, I'm disappointing you with the story. So, so they said I fit the description. Long story short, they said I fit the description because somebody had tried to rob an ATM machine at the bank that's further, like a couple of blocks up. And I fit the description.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that I did not look anything like the guy who tried to rob the ATM machine. But because I was black, and because I had a black hoodie, and I probably had some black pants, and I probably had on some black shoes, that I got stereotyped, and that black privilege went out of the window because I fit the description. Now, to roll into what
can I respond back to this?
I feel like what you're about to say is, first of all, why are you wearing all black? Why you decided to wander around an empty parking lot at 1 o'clock in the morning?
I feel like as you're telling this story, you're like, damn, I would have pulled me too.
No.
You look like you're like, yeah, I really made a lot of mistakes in this situation.
I would have gave myself a second look from the outside looking in. I'm like, who is that? Wait a minute, let's look at him for a second. And then
you would have been like, excuse me, sir.
Did you rob the ATM machine up the street?
Yeah, is that how you got police? like, all right. First of all, let's be honest with this, right? So you're wearing all black, right? Were you wearing the hoodie?
Most definitely.
Were you wearing the hat too?
I don't think so.
Was your hoodie up?
More than likely.
Probably.
It was cold outside. It was November.
Were your hands in your pocket?
Of course, always.
Oh yeah. So how do you even know that they saw that you were black?
Because they shined a light in my
They
face.
had no idea
No,
you were black
they
to
were in the
begin
car.
with.
Listen, they were in the car, and that light that's on the side.
Mm-hmm.
They shined it on me as they're like going like 80 miles
Sure.
an hour towards me.
I'm gonna give you
They,
the benefit of the doubt too with it, Dante, just because I'm gonna show you how ridiculous this entire situation is, right? All right, let's assume they knew you were black. They just know,
right,
right?
yeah, just right off the
Right.
bat, just they look. Yep, he's a Negro.
Can you tell me how most people probably dress at that time if they're doing some devious shit, Dante? What color do they generally wear?
Black.
Black. Don't they try to cover up their face?
I don't.
Using things like
I don't know. It
hoodies,
was in
hats,
November, so
ski-
it was cold
No,
outside.
Dante. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. Don't they still try and cover up their face?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, because you don't want to get seen by like a camera, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like you probably were walking straight up with decent posture, right? You probably hunched over, your face was probably down, you probably had some type of step on you, right? Because I know how you walked back then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you already got 3 strikes against you already, right? Tell me, what time was it?
It was pretty. It was kind of like an
A
absurd
time
hour.
where most humans probably ain't outside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the hour where if you're outside, you're probably doing some shady shit. You know, probably that hour. All right, cool. So it's about that time too, right? And let's assume, because I gave you the benefit of the doubt, the cops saw you were black. Let's give the cops the benefit of the doubt too. There definitely was a robbery that happened because they gave you that information, right?
Yeah.
The ATM down the street. Do you know where that ATM was? Was it
No.
close? Was it relative?
I'm
Do you
assuming
know
it
anything
was.
about that?
It was. I'm assuming it was a big ass parking lot, like a shopping
Compliment
center.
Game. It was definitely his walk. Yeah, but keep going, Dante.
But it was definitely a big shopping center parking lot, and I'm assuming the bank was towards the main street. Whatever street Iron Bridge turns into.
So you were near it.
I guess I was on the opposite end of the parking.
Yeah, for fact of the matter, just dissect the situation. Let's say you're near it, right? Wouldn't it be reasonable to stop this person based on what we just talked about to see what the heck is going on, why they're out, and then on top of that, just let you know Chesterfield does have a curfew, and you were far past that curfew time.
I didn't know that. Like,
yeah, it's so bad. Too bad.
So,
just because you don't know just because you're ignorant of the law does not mean it doesn't apply to you, Dante. It does not matter. All right, just because you didn't know it was illegal to kill a person doesn't mean you ain't going to jail.
No,
that's not how it works.
So let me ask you this: in that scenario, when does my black privilege kick in?
This has nothing to do with privilege. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
When does my powers kick in?
You as a black, white, green, yellow, tan, orange, purple, you look suspect. All right. You look suspect to me, and this didn't even happen. I'm not even a cop. This just sounds suspect.
But yeah, I mean, obviously it all worked out fine. They asked me what am I doing out there.
What are you doing?
I was like, I'm at the Target. They was like, the Target?
What? Target?
They're like, for what?
That thing's closed.
And I was like, no, the PlayStation, whichever PlayStation it was, it's releasing. And me and my friends were at the Target waiting for it to release. And they kind of just looked at me, and it felt like forever. They just stared at me.
Yeah.
And then somebody radioed it in. And then they were like, yeah, there are people outside the Target. So that's how they let me go. But I didn't even go get nothing to eat. I didn't even go to Denny's. I was not in the mood to eat at that point.
He was too shook.
Yeah. So I just went back and I was like, yeah, I'm never coming outside with you again. I was telling Julius, I was like, I'm never coming out here with you again. Like, just.
Maybe because you look super sus. And then, obviously something bad happened too. So,
Yeah. So black privilege does not work if you put yourself in a position to
where
look
your
like
privilege
a suspect.
won't work.
Yeah.
Yes, like, obviously, Dante, you can't just go around punching people and then just expect because they're scared of you, they can go do nothing back to you.
But where's my black privilege? But no. So,
Dante, that was horrible.
That's not how it works.
That's
not how none of it works.
I'm glad you told that story just because it was so ludicrous and
yeah, like you said, in hindsight, at first I was just confused, but in hindsight, I understood. Like you, in all seriousness, I understood why it happened the way it happened. At the time, I was like, "What the hell is going on?" Because that was like one of my first encounters
Encounters, yeah,
like that with police.
yeah, shook. Like, what in
So
the world? Did they draw guns? Do you remember?
no, they didn't. But when I
Okay.
put my, because I knew I didn't do anything, so I had my hands in
Hmm.
my pockets, or I was starting to put my hands in my
And then
pockets.
at that
So
point,
then that's when
they
they
tensed
kind
up.
of like reached for it, and I was like, oh,
Hmm.
like hold up.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of that's when I actually like understood the seriousness of it.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. And we always talk too. It starts with family and parenting. Have you ever had conversations with your parents before that time about interaction with police and law
no,
enforcement? Yeah, boom, there it is. Because having that conversation earlier in your years of life could have prevented most of that from even occurring.
I just wanted some Denny's.
Listen, man, I get it. You're a kid, you wanted Denny's. I understand. But there are rules to this.
Yeah.
As my old boss would always tell me when I would wage war with upper management. And there's a couple of things he always told me is just like, listen, not every war is, not every battle is worth fighting.
Oh,
And there are
definitely,
rules to these things. And
definitely.
me in my young age was like, no, like they're wrong. It's in the policy. This is how it needs to be. And over time, you grow to learn just, hey man, just let it go. Just you ain't here to do all that. You here to do what they hired you for and go home. And there's rules to these things, so obviously you learned some.
Yeah. So with that being said, what's the takeaway of Black privilege?
Oh my god,
what can we walk away from this podcast and say?
privilege is unique. The only privilege that's generally worldwide, I'd say, is beauty privilege. It is recognized worldwide. The entire idea of beauty is in the eye of the beholder is a complete lie. There are beauty standards that are observed worldwide in general. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have things like Miss America slash Miss Universe and things like that because there are just specific beauty traits that every single person appreciates. Um, so yeah, if you're a beautiful person, if your chromosomes lined up perfectly, congratulations, you've won probably the best privilege lottery in the world. And if you happen to also be born in the United States of America or a first world country, you've also rolled a pretty substantial, amazing prize of possibly not starving and or dying because you don't have water. So or diseases that can't be treated in your country because you may not have access, things of that nature.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's plenty of privileges out there that people don't look at that do need to be discussed more so of just race, and that's it.
That's a wonderful closing remark, Alex.
Yeah. Why thank you. It's like I studied or something.
Yeah, it's like you've been talking about this for decades.
I'm so damn tired of talking about this. So tired.
It's going to happen
I,
again. Not with us, but in general, it's going to be talked about. It's going to happen again.
Whenever I say that, I always have you watched Yu Yu Hakusho?
No, I have not.
Oh my Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you, man?
Uh,
So anyway, though, you need to watch the show. But there's a character called Genkai, and one of the most memorable quotes it means is literally when she looks at Yusuke because he's like obviously the protagonist of it, right? So she's been teaching and training him for a very long time, and at one point Yusuke asks her a question, and she just looks back at Yusuke and goes, "I'm old, Yusuke." Because she's just so tired of everything in the world. Like she has to hand down her power.
yeah.
So she's just like, I don't give a fuck who gets this. Whoever wins this tournament will get this power. I love that character because as you grow older in life, you can just understand her more and more and more. Because obviously, as a kid, you're like, but old lady, shouldn't you give it to someone who's good?
Yeah,
But
someone
then
who's
you go through
worthy.
life, yeah, someone who's worthy. But then as you grow in age, you're like, I don't care. It's not even that important. Why are
Yeah.
y'all making it seem this important? That's literally me with most of the conversations had within our sphere of our community. So it's very akin and similar to like the red pill having the high value man talk and like just any of that nonsense really. But I'm sure we'll talk about it some other time, and I'll be here for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that my soundboard didn't work. I wanted to introduce the podcast and then it'd be like clapping in the
Oh yeah.
background. I'm like, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. But it didn't work out like that, so I'm kind of
So now your
I'm gonna
ego
work
took
on
a
it.
hit.
I'm gonna work on yeah, huh?
Your ego took a hit.
Slightly. So, well, thank people who tune in. Bookworm, Sir Game a lot,
Hmm.
uh, for tuning in.
Oh, one other thing too about privilege I forgot about with other cultures. I've heard this quite often that people would rather have babies with black people because they think mixed black babies are cute.
Uh,
Hmm. That is a thing too.
yeah, I've
I'm sure
heard.
you've heard the
I've
same
heard.
exact.
I thought that about Koreans at
Yeah.
one point.
Hmm.
Like Blasian.
Blasians. It's a thing.
I thought when I was like in my early 20s, I thought that, or my teenage years, I thought that. So I'm not surprised that people actually said that about black people.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's our privilege showing.
There it is.
But yeah, I'm definitely gonna figure out the soundboard. I'm really feeling. I'm distraught, Alex, on how the soundboard did not work. Like I plotted
Wow.
out this whole week.
Bookworm said, "Wow, that is a thing, though." Yeah, like it extends further than what generally that people talk about. Like you really kind of have to open your minds to like all avenues of how this privilege thing works because it's not all positives and it's not all negatives. It's a huge blend of each. But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, for someone to be like, "Yeah, I'd rather date this guy because he's black and my babies are gonna be cute," that's a massive advantage in mating and selection. Are you kidding me? Like that can literally like extinct an entire culture from existing. Imagine for a second that they were like, yo, as a culture, Eastern people were like, we only want mixed black babies. Done for white people in that category.
Done.
Never will date an age, even though they generally prefer white people. But still, like, if that was the case, yeah, that'd be that. That's a wrap. That those type of things destroy cultures.
So it has huge ramifications all across the globe.
It does. And people only see it as, I can't do blah blah blah. It's like, nah, this is bigger than just you. Y'all gotta realize, like, you're on a planet filled with billions of people. You're one dude floating on this random rock in space.
If
I
somebody
always try
says,
to tell
"Yeah,
people, like, I
I
always
want
try to
you because you're
understand
black,"
people. Yeah, like, I'm not. And sometimes people think I'm like trying to talk down to them. I'm like, nah, like, you gotta realize how insignificant we as a people are. Like,
yeah, we had this
think
conversation
about
like the other
this.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're on one of my favorite quotes that I see usually once a year is like, you are this undescribable spirit residing in a husk of a body that you pilot on a planet that is going who knows how fast in space.
Bro, why'd you put it? Why did you say it like that? That sounds like, like that.
Yeah, because that's what it is. How do you explain like consciousness
That's a
that we have?
that sounds
And
like
then on
another.
top of that, what consciousness gets put into what body? Like we're just bodies. Like we don't. This is just who we are. We didn't describe or do this. We just grew into this, and we're here. Poof! Hi! I now know I exist. And now you're on this rock that also does things like rain, explode lava, like snow,
It's a random
right?
natural disaster
Random
somewhere.
natural disasters, right? On top of that, it is flying through space. But it's not just flying, it's also rotating at the same time around the star. And you're somewhere in there.
Yeah. Oh, before I forget, Blerd
Mhm.
Talk podcast on all streaming platforms, bro.
Oh my god, get out of here. All right, we done with this.
Yeah.
I've had
I,
enough
I
now.
will, because you ventured into consciousness and what is life?
No, I'm
What is
hungry. I haven't
consciousness?
eaten, and this uses up a lot of brain power.
So anyway, I would like to thank the viewers for tuning in and for participating in the chat. For those who didn't, that's okay. You came, you listened. That's appreciated as well. So
Oh, bookworm, you said we out here replacing people. If you're not aware of it, you should look up the great replacement theory. That's what has a lot of the other folk opposite of my color apparently, ranting and raving because they think they're being replaced. Which I mean, eventually, when all this mating thing happens in the next, I don't know, couple hundreds of years, when every race just commingles with every race, who knows if there'll be a majority at that point.
okay,
Yeah,
I might actually look that up to be honest with you. By the
the
way,
replacement theory.
yeah,
Hmm.
one more thing. Well, yeah, one more thing. I will be
Hmm.
streaming The Sims every Wednesday at 12 in the afternoon. Why are you doing that? Stop that.
Oh, why you looking?
Yeah, I saw. Dog, it caught my eye.
Oh, why you looking?
Toxic masculinity. Like,
Nah.
but no. So for if anybody is watching, I will be streaming every Wednesday at 12 p.m. The Ghetto Sims stories. Tune in for that. Blerd Top Podcast streaming on all platforms, bro. All right, I'm out.
All right, thank y'all for whoever commented. Much appreciated.